The United States Department of Veterans Affairs is a cabinet-level executive branch department of the federal government, charged with providing lifelong healthcare services to eligible military veterans at the 170 VA medical centers in the United States. And that's where we come in. Live from the Wisdom for the Blind studios in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, this is InSight to the VA. The VA is there to help us. Let's get started. Welcome to InSight to the VA. InSight to the VA. With your host, Douglas Cram.
This is InSight to the VA, where we provide blind veterans the wisdom to navigate the VA. Today we are speaking with Gabino Lares. Gabino is an admin coordinator and supervisor at the West Palm Blind Rehab Center. Gabino, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
Good. How was the weather in West Palm Beach today?
Perfect. It was nice and sunny. No rain or minimal rain, so we had a great day.
We had some heavy thunder and rain here for a while. It's muggy now. I want to talk about your early history, where you were born, where you went to high school, where you went to college, and what degree you got. So can you start off by doing that?
Absolutely. So I was born in the small agricultural town, farming town in Yuma, Arizona. I then obviously went to high school partially before losing my vision at the age of 13 at a local high school in Yuma, Arizona, named Cibola High School. Soon after my vision obviously was lost, I needed to make a transition over, which I attended the Arizona State School for the Deaf and the Blind, which is a boarding school in Tucson, Arizona, of which I attended for my high school years, and then transitioned over to attend local community college there, and then the University of Arizona.
What degree did you get at the University of Arizona?
I initially started studying my undergrad as an elementary education. So I was a K through 8th grade certified teacher initially. I then proceeded to obtain a master's degree at the same university with an emphasis under special education, with an emphasis as a teacher for the visually impaired, allowing me to teach K through 12th grade at the same school where I attended. I then followed my master's with an additional year and a half to obtain my orientation and mobility certification through that program there as well.
Now, I wasn't sure if you wanted to talk about your blindness or not. You brought it up. Would you like to talk about that?
Absolutely. I have no hidden information regarding my visual disability. I lost my vision at the young age of 13 due to a sporting accident. Playing baseball, it damaged the optic nerve due to being trauma, directly impact to the eye area, causing an internal infection, damaging my optic nerve, of which both optic nerves were damaged, causing my vision to be lost to a point of where an estimated 90% of it was gone. So I have full peripheral vision, but very minimal central acuity vision.
I remember you telling me when I was there in 2016 that you loved playing baseball, and I believe that's where you lost your eyesight. You were hit with a baseball?
Yes, sir. That is correct.
Okay. Tell me about the things that you did after college and before you came to the BRC in West Palm Beach.
Immediately after obtaining my undergrad in elementary education, I then did an internship there at the local school where I attended high school. I did my internship there with a kindergarten through 3rd grade classroom. At that same time, I was obtaining my master's. Therefore, right after I finished my master's degree, I stayed teaching at the Arizona State School for the Deaf and Blind, teaching K-8, mostly middle school age children. And then I transitioned over to specializing in assistive technology, of which is where my passion lies, and the use and implementation of that technology within the classroom setting for children who are born with a visual disability. Immediately after that, I went on, as I stated earlier, to obtain my certification in orientation and mobility, which I then did an internship at the BRC, or the Blind Rehab Center there in Tucson, Arizona, which there's another blind rehab center there. I did my internship there, of which is what got me interested in working with blinded veterans or veterans with a visual disability. Immediately after that, I wanted to get away from the dry heat. So I decided to pursue a career in Florida, which obviously is still hot, but it was a little more access to water. Therefore, I applied for a position at a Lighthouse non-for-profit agency out of North Fort Myers, which I was hired as a supervisor to supervise their computer access technology program through a non-for-profit working with individuals with visual disabilities, but non-veterans, obviously, the normal population, of which I worked there for 2 years supervising that program and implementing quite a few technology programs there. I then came to the VA and applied for a position as a computer access technology at the West Palm Beach Blind Rehab Center, of which I was able to obtain, and that's where my VA career started here.
So how long have you been working with the blind?
I started, well, not only, obviously, a lot of the skill sets were learned as a visually impaired person myself. Therefore, the skill set started to learn back in 1995, but I started direct service providing in 2004. So I've been in the field of instruction and or working with individuals with a visual disability since 2004, obviously, so that approximately 18 years.
And how long have you been working at the BRC in West Palm Beach?
I got hired in 2012 as a computer access technology specialist there, where I taught for approximately 3 years. Immediately after that, I was fortunate enough to obtain a position as the admissions coordinator or program coordinator, however you would like to view that, meaning working with admissions and doing the admissions process for veterans getting admitted into the program. I also was part-time teaching still at that point to maintain those skills. I also was developing programs for computer access technology program as well, and training and cross-training other staff members that we had there for access technology.
Okay. I think we're going to take our first break and hear something from the Wisdom for the Blind Studios. So just hang on for a minute.
VA's Office of Blind Rehabilitation Services estimates there are approximately 130,000 veterans in the United States who are legally blind, and more than 1 million veterans who have low vision that causes a loss of ability to perform necessary daily activities. In this era of instant communication, where we get overwhelmed with data or facts that are useless to unsighted individuals, wouldn't it be great if we could count on news focused on real problems that impact the daily lives of veterans without sight? Introducing Wisdom for Blinded Veterans, an advanced informational portal designed by blind veterans specifically for blind and vision impaired vets that, like them, are facing challenges every day. Hi, my name is Ben, and I know the frustration. I've struggled in day-to-day tasks for over 20 years since I lost my eyesight. One of my biggest challenges has always been trying to stay up to date with the latest information of my eye disease, local news, and the ever-changing technology. I wanted to be able to have one single site that merged all the data scattered, and that's why we created Wisdom for Blinded Vets. This is a portal that can be accessed via the web, a smartphone app, telephone, email, text messaging, or Amazon's Alexa. It integrates with readers such as JAWS or Apple's VoiceOver and various other tools to give you a seamless experience. This portal will keep us updated on a variety of topics and will share knowledge that can help make our lives easier and more fulfilled. Highlights of the topics covered on the portal include podcasts, events, news, blind rehab and training, information on the BVA and other groups, a list of coordinator and bros list, online groups to interact with fellow vets facing the same challenges, and much more. Give us a try. You will not be disappointed. To learn more about us, visit our website www.w4bv.org. If you're interested in sharing your knowledge, please consider becoming a contributor by logging into our portal and going to the contributor section for more information. Wisdom for Blinded Veterans, transforming blind veterans' lives.
Okay, Gabino, we're back. You wanted to talk about how you can relate to blinded veterans. Can you do that now?
Absolutely. I think being a person with a visual disability and a big advocate for the use of access technology to level the playing field. I think one of the reasons why I embrace access technology and promote it with such a passion and drive is because it definitely levels that playing field for veterans and or any other person with a visual disability to have access to information, access to other platforms as well as various applications, and to be able to stay as independent as possible. For me, it's personal in the sense that it is important for me to be able to relate to the client that I'm working with, whether it's a civilian or a veteran. But I think in my current situation is the ability to relate to a veteran when providing training and or conducting assessments. It's a lot easier for them to understand when it's coming from a user standpoint, because I can definitely relate to their frustrations as well as their ambitions to be able to learn certain skill sets and be able to use access technology to perform those skills and retain that information through training at the BRC.
Now, how does a veteran start the process to inevitably get to a BRC?
Great question. And I think that's a very important one that we always try to educate veterans and reach veterans, no different than other agencies as well as other members of the VA that work for the VA. And I think the initial and most important part is obviously being enrolled. Once a veteran becomes enrolled within the VA and going through normal eye evaluations through the eye clinics, optometry or ophthalmology, once they are diagnosed, now it has changed to where a veteran with low vision does not necessarily need to be legally blind as before. Now with low vision, functional low vision, meaning that they have some periphery loss or some central vision loss that is no longer able to be corrected, through that low vision evaluation through a VA eye doctor and or an external doctor, those documents can be submitted. That initiates that process to put the veteran in contact with their VIS coordinator or a visual impairment service team coordinator, which is the person that walks the veteran through the process of accessing various services within blind rehab. Once that VIS coordinator becomes in contact with that veteran, initiating that contact and being part of their caseload, then they are able to be referred either for outpatient services through a blind rehab outpatient specialist to go to the home and assess the veteran, to assess their needs and their goals and what they would like to be able to perform again, and or they could be referred at that point, once they're on their caseload, for inpatient services. We are fortunate now at the blind rehab centers across the country not only to be able to refer veterans to those programs, but also to gain access to those programs in a virtual platform, meaning that now referrals can come in both for virtual training, meaning that they stay home. Ideally, that is best for those veterans that would normally not be able to come to a BRC for the direct comprehensive training that would take face-to-face at a center now that we're reopened. But it also obviously enables those veterans that have medical situations, family situations, or personal situations where they just cannot get away for a prolonged period of time to be admitted into a blind rehab center like ours.
Now, there's an assessment process by the VIST. Do you also assess the veteran for a desired device?
The answer is yes, definitely. I think VIS coordinators as well as blind rehab outpatient specialists, or the BROs as they're referred to, are the initial assessors that interview the veteran, meet with the veteran, assess the veteran based on their current situation, living situation, as well as their independence levels and what can be done through services and or issuance of prosthetic devices to enhance that independence level. Yes, they do that initial assessment, but once they refer to us, we get those referrals with an assessment that is conducted, keeping in mind that we have that ability to assess a patient a little longer and more in depth. So definitely when we receive a referral from a veteran, we definitely take that time to assess a veteran based on needs and goals, but also equipment that would assist that veteran in meeting those needs and goals. So my objective at the center is to assess the veteran first based on their visual diagnosis, visual functioning, but also their goals that they are seeking to meet, but also their cognitive abilities, meaning some veterans are not as technologically inclined. And so it's important for us to do that assessment to assure that whatever piece of equipment hardware, software, or standalone device is best suited for that veteran based on their abilities, as well as, with the intent of meeting those goals that were created during the assessment process.
Now, does the veteran have any options? Let's say a device is introduced and the veteran does not feel comfortable with that device. Does the veteran have any options as far as another device?
And the answer to that is yes, in the sense that usually the assessment will determine what type of equipment is most appropriate. It may state that the veteran could benefit, for example, from a standalone OCR or a portable OCR, meaning an optical character recognition device that would enable the veteran to access printed materials. The veteran will be then educated on the types of devices that the VA at our BRC, because I cannot speak on behalf of other blind rehab centers, that devices that would meet those needs, and kind of educate the veteran on the benefits and advantages or disadvantages or challenges, limitations that those devices may have, so that they make an informed decision based on the assessment and what that device can assist that veteran in performing. So the answer is yes, but it's through an assessment process and education of the veteran to make sure they understand the decisions that they're about to make, which we want them to be part of that process so that they feel that they are a part of not only the equipment that's being determined to be most appropriate, but also part of that training that they're about to engage in.
Okay. You said the Blind Rehab Center was open now. Is that correct?
That is correct. As a matter of fact, it's funny because on April 1st, on April Fool's Day, we reopened the center and we are currently serving effective May 23rd. We were initially only taking in 4 to 5 patients to ensure that, obviously to allow for spacing, to ensure that there was limited exposure to veterans, to make sure that they were safe. Part of that process was during the pre-admission process, veterans are being tested in their local VA stations before coming to the VA, as well as once they arrive with us, to assure that they are obviously testing negative and definitely making a difference. And soon, effective May 23rd, we are going to increase our capacity up to 6. And slowly, the idea is to increase that capacity, ensuring obviously the safety protocols are in place and they are working.
Okay. Can you speak a little about the virtual teaching that you do?
Absolutely. And I think that's during the pandemic, this was a program that was in place beforehand. It wasn't heavily relied upon, but it was definitely available. I think our emphasis and focus was on direct inpatient services. However, during the pandemic, when we were closed and a lot of our instructional staff, the majority were sent home to work virtually, this virtual training modalities kind of came to light, meaning that we had to figure a way for these programs to work, evolve, make sure that the veteran had the ability to learn through a virtual modality, meaning that they had the equipment at home to be able to connect, and ideally to have a second device to be able to connect and then train on that alternative device. Meaning that if we're training a veteran on their computer, that maybe they would be able to connect on an iPhone so that we could see the screen, and or vice versa. If we were training the veteran on an iPhone, that maybe they had either a computer that they could connect through or a spouse, so that we could isolate the device that they were learning to make sure that it was kind of hands-free, meaning that they could perform the gestures, the commands, etc., without having to be connected at the same time.
Now, besides being the admin coordinator and the supervisor or a supervisor, what else do you do at the Blind Rehab Center?
That's a great question. I think because at the center, a lot of our staff wear multiple hats, and I'm definitely no special person by no means. But yes, I do a lot of the admissions process for our veterans and admitting and coordinating transportation, as well as maintaining the bed census, supervising staff. But another one of my main roles is also to provide direct patient care virtually and/or provide coverage and backup when needed on site, as well as cross-training a lot of our staff. So when there's new staff that are hired, as well as staff that are interested in being cross-trained to be able to provide training in other areas outside of their education, meaning that if they were orientation and mobility specialists or living skill specialists or low vision specialists, that they are able to be cross-trained into other skill areas, in particular the access technology department, meaning iPhones, iPads, head-mounted devices, meaning like Orcam or Patriot, computers, softwares, because the demand for most referrals that we receive, about 75 to 80% of those referrals usually have a component of access technology. Therefore, our staff has had to adapt and be flexible and learn new skills. That's not what they originally were hired for per se, but we have a good ability to cross-train staff to be able to provide that service to our veterans that we receive both virtually and or as an inpatient.
I know when I was there in 2016, you also stepped in to teach. You taught me several things on the iPhone when I was there.
And that's correct. Definitely, my role is as a supervisor for the access technology. We have two supervisors, as you stated earlier. I'm one of them, yes. My specialty per se is the access technology or the assistive technology component, meaning when we have veterans that are a little more advanced or need some specialized training, such as Braille technology, which I also provide training in that, from Braille technology devices such as Braille Notes or PackMates or any of those Braille devices, as well as screen readers like JAWS and or other screen readers that are out there as well, or screen magnifications, depending on that veteran, depending on their skill set. Sometimes I step in to assure that the veteran gets the training that they need and not have to have when we're short-staffed and or when we just need the support. I will be more than happy to provide a program from start to finish if needed as well. So definitely my role is not limited to administrative duties, but also to be able to provide access technology and or orientation and mobility if needed as well.
What kinds of courses are being taught at the BRC currently?
That's a great question. I think we initially, when we first opened up, we were focusing on the regular component of the program, which means that it encompasses orientation and mobility, living skills, low vision, manual skills, and communication skills, which is part of the regular program. We also were taking on veterans that were there for iOS, iPad, and/or iPhone. So we're definitely training in those areas. We are definitely starting to get veterans for computers as well. We got our first computer student on May 9th. Who started with computers. So I cross-train a couple of new hires or new staff. So they are now being able to provide that computer access technology training to our veterans. So we're now teaching basically the entire services as of last week, meaning that veterans are also able to come for iOS, computers, head-mounted devices, even GPS devices if that's a need in the orientation and mobility department. So basically all of our programs are back up and running.
What kinds of courses do you see for the future? Technology is growing, so do you see anything coming in the future? Anything else?
I think something that's not necessarily new, meaning new devices or new technologies, a program that we have definitely developed during the pandemic and something that I promote a lot is that we have cross-trained staff to be able to provide training to those veterans that have obtained their own Apple Watch. So that is one of the new programs that are available. The VA does not, at least our BRC does not issue that device. But if most veterans, if they obtain it, it is a wonderful piece of equipment that enables a veteran to have access to the same information that their iPhone provides. But additionally, some medical supported devices or software features that are built in, such as fall prevention, GPS is built into the watch, health and fitness, EKGs. So there's a lot of wonderful tools that the Apple Watch provides to our veterans if they have one. So that's a program that we have definitely in place, that we have staff that have been cross-trained and ready to provide that service, both virtually and or inpatient. In the future, I think we are enhancing our Apple computers training program, meaning that in the past, we used to get a lot of computer requested referrals or patients coming in for computers, but predominantly were Windows-based softwares. Now we're seeing a big pickup in the Apple computer side of the house as well, which we are more than happy to provide. So including obviously the MacBooks, the iMacs, and that's a big growing program currently across the clientele that we're serving or the veterans that we're serving. The younger they are, the more interest they have in utilizing devices that are more per se supported among their current devices, such as iPads, iPhones. Obviously, it syncs better with an iMac or a Mac computer. So definitely that's a pickup in that. We definitely started doing a lot more applications that may come out, meaning more GPS for the orientation and mobility aspect, there's more applications that support a veteran or a person with a visual disability to use their iPhone as a navigational tool as well. So there's applications that are specifically designed for the blind that we definitely have developed a program for and can issue those kinds of applications if it's suitable for that veteran. So there's a lot more that you see coming down technology as it kind of expands. That's the nice thing about the Access Technology Department, is that we're constantly needing to evolve, adapt, and look outside the typical softwares or computers or whatever we were issuing in the past.
Okay, I think we're going to take another break, Gabino, so just stand by, please.
Ice cream. All the ice cream in my house, in the world, and most of my stuffed animals.
My video games and, my phone.
What would you give for your freedom? Would you give your eyesight? Would you give ever seeing the sunset again? Would you give the ability to see your children's future? Thousands of brave men and women who served in the United States Armed Forces have given their eyesight in defense of our freedom. And the Blinded Veterans Association wants to give them their freedom back, but it needs your help. Go to BVA.org to find out about how BVA's free programs and services, advocacy, education, peer support, scholarships, and more help America's heroes to not just deal with the emotional and physical issues of sudden sight loss or impairment, but actually work to get them back to the independent lives they deserve to live. Go to BVA.org to find out how you can make a difference. They fought for your independence, and by going to BVA.org, you can find out how to help these veterans regain theirs. Go to BVA.org today.
Okay, Gabino, we're back. Can you tell me if a blinded veteran has the opportunity to choose between going to a blind rehab center in his state or a blind rehab in a center in another state?
Sure. I think that's a valid question that I think in the past, historically, if a veteran, the best practice was if a veteran can be best served locally within the catchment area where they reside, meaning Florida, they would normally be referred to our center. And in the past, that was the best protocol in place or best practice, however you would like to state it. It was the practice that was being performed. Currently, things have changed due to not just pandemic, but also veteran choice. I think if you think about the rights and choices of a veteran where they seek their services, it has kind of been implemented as well within blind rehab, meaning that veterans now, if certain services that they are seeking for any reason are not able to be met at the local VA station, they are able to be referred to any blind rehab center throughout the country, with the idea that wherever they're being referred to would support those specific needs that they have if they cannot be met at the local blind rehab center. Sometimes we've had veterans that come to us. It's the same if you reverse that question. I think we've served veterans as far as, Vermont, New Hampshire, New York, the Midwest. People, we're getting a veteran actually just came in this last Monday, came in from the state of Illinois. So they have that choice to request to go to a BRC based on previous experiences, based on being there before and would like to go back because they're familiar with that staff, that center, that city. They may have family in the area, or that's their choice of where they would like to go receive those services. It's now we're at that point where if a veteran chooses to go or request to go somewhere else, it's up to the VIS coordinator to assist in educating the veteran as to what may be different, but also educating them that the wait time may be different. Keeping that in mind that if you want to go to let's say a center in Chicago, it's an option if a particular service is more available, meaning you have a quicker turnaround, that you might get there sooner due to the wait list, and or you're just seeking to go there to experience a different blind center and see how that operates. But ideally, the same certified staff should be available at all blind rehab centers across the board.
Now, can you talk about the training schedule there at the BRC?
Sure, absolutely. And that's a great question. I think a lot of our veterans are not used to a structured schedule, the way that we kind of run a program. Obviously, if they're retired, and in most cases they are, or don't have a structured schedule like that. So we have 7 total classes at our center that we do on a daily basis, meaning usually breakfast is served at 7 in the morning, give or take, around noon for lunch and around 4:30 for dinner. But as far as the schedule goes, they usually start their first class at 8 in the morning. There's 4 classes in the morning. They're 45 minutes long. So there's 4 with a break in the morning around 9:30. And then there's 3 more classes in the afternoon after lunch from 12:30 to 3 p.m. Again, 45-minute intervals for those classes with an additional break around 2. So there's a total of 7 classes. What's nice about the schedule too is that every veteran that is admitted is also has a team coordinator that's assigned to them that follows them from admission to discharge. Every day they meet with that veteran to discuss their schedule for the day. If they have any issues or concerns or upcoming meetings, such as the care planning meeting that we hold regarding progress after about 7 to 10 days of being at the center. So it's important that that schedule is presented on a daily basis and they meet with each veteran every morning.
Are the veterans able to pick and choose the food they eat?
That's a great question. I think that's definitely an area that has improved quite a bit, where the way you stated it is actually accurate, meaning that the veterans get to call now down to food and nutrition services and actually place their orders per se, where there's choices for them to pick from, as opposed to in the past, it was a pretty much set breakfast, lunch, and dinner with some minimal choices to the side. Now they get to pick what is of their interest per se. If somebody wants, salads and soups for lunch every day with a sandwich, that's definitely an option. If they want to add something different or choose something different, there as well. So I think that has been a big enhancement that veterans appreciate, is having the ability to pick what they're going to eat. They just have to remember to call it in. So there's a scheduled time that they has to be submitted in order to receive the food that they requested. So yes, they get to choose.
Do you have a on-floor nursing staff there?
Absolutely. I think that's one of the main questions when I do my pre-admission phone call to the veterans before they're admitted. We discuss, per se, the schedule as well as all the other specialty areas that they will receive support in or services in. Definitely nursing. We have 24/7 nursing staff on site, meaning that they're there to support educational wise, for the training and education on consumption of medications. So they provide training on pill boxes and medications and how to take them and how to organize them as well, so that there's a safe consumption of medications. They're also there to provide training on the use of blood pressure machines as well as glucometers that are talking, obviously, for those veterans that are diabetic. So that their role there is not only just to assure that everybody's staying safe, but also to provide education and training in the area of nursing. But in addition to that, we have other specialties that veterans are informed before they're admitted or scheduled to be admitted. So they're informed that throughout their stay, they are definitely going to meet with an eye doctor at the admission process as well as at discharge, so that they can assess for possibly new glasses, other low vision devices, the health of the eye, to check the pressures or whatever may be going on with their eyes themselves. So they'll meet with an optometrist at the beginning of their programming as well as at the tail end, and then obviously be issued any prosthetic devices that may enhance their ability to access printed material. We also have an on-site blind rehab social worker that will meet with all of our patients as well to discuss social services or benefits that they're entitled to receive. And she will go through all of those benefits and services with that patient. We additionally have recreation specialists that meets with our veterans to discuss hobbies, recreational activities that obviously during the initial opening of our program, there was limited access to the outside just to ensure safety protocols were in place. But our recreation therapist now has been given the green light, per se, to take veterans outside in the community, keeping in mind being outdoors activities, meaning parks, state parks. In the past, they would go fishing. So they're starting to open up some of those opportunities for our veterans to get them out of the hospital, to not only get them out of the hospital for socialization, but also to apply the skills that they're learning as part of their blind rehab training as well. We also now have music therapy. So we have a music therapist that's part of recreation that comes and works with patients who either are working with, musical instruments or enjoy music to a certain degree, so that they can meet with those patients that are maybe, play the piano or guitar, etc. So that's definitely another service that is a part of the admission for all of our veterans. That also includes psychology. So we have psychology department that meets with all of our patients so that they can do an intake as well as a discharge if needed. But they also will provide mental health services if they are a veteran that is currently receiving mental health back at their home station and would benefit from one-to-one meetings. And in most cases is to address any adjustment to blindness or the loss of their vision, which both of you may know, obviously have been through that process and what that's like to adjust. And so that's what they're there for as well, to provide that service if needed. Most of our specialists that work with our patients when they're admitted in our program.
Can you talk both about living skills and manual skills?
Absolutely. So part of the regular program, and when a veteran is referred for the regular program or any other programs, everybody is assessed as far as their living skills areas, meaning, and we're talking about the ability to cook, to clean, to access a kitchen safely, to access a stovetop and oven, to be able to cut food, access their trays or food when working, when they're going out to eat, how to identify colors when they're getting dressed, how to do laundry, folding, drying, all of those things, accessing their washer and dryers back home, training them how to use those types of equipment as well so that they can be independent when at home. They also work, obviously, like I stated earlier, on how to prepare basic meals or advanced meals, depending on their interest and abilities to access a kitchen and perform those skill sets. So we work with time management, money management, identifying currency, filling out envelopes, and those kinds of things within the living skills department as well. As far as the shop, we have a full-blown woodworking shop as well as a leather shop where veterans are able to work on fine motor skills with their hands on how to access leather, produce a belt, from cutting to staining to preparing and completing an entire belt that they get to take home. They work on stamping, cutting wood, to creating frames, to sanding, to a lot of skills within the advanced shop and basic shop to be able to work with their hands, given that their vision is now compromised. So they definitely work on a lot of fine motor skills in there as well, and tactile awareness to be able to identify, obviously, different tools, etc.
And talk about the mobility program.
Well, and the mobility program is a critical program, meaning that safety always comes first. So we work with our veterans one-to-one with an orientation and mobility specialist that will work with veterans from the beginning to the end, depending on their skill sets and their abilities and goals with regards to traveling. So they will work with veterans on how to use a cane, to how to navigate elevators, how to navigate the hospital, how to access, crossing streets if they're going into that realm, how to access and walking in communities, crossing street lights, accessing train stations. We've even taken veterans on how to safely access, a Greyhound station, train station, downtown, a bigger city downtown, and crossing streets and being safe. But the emphasis is obviously to promote independence, but also safety, using equipment such as an iPhone with GPS, standalone devices as well that produce and provide navigational cues and information for veterans to travel from point A to point B safely. So that's always evolving, but also safety first, with the end result of a veteran being as independent as they can possibly be with regards to orienting and navigating their environments, both familiar and unfamiliar as well.
And tell me about the various outings that you offer the veterans.
Well, historically, there was a lot of outings that were being provided, from going to festivals, to music concerts, to art museums, the mall, fishing, like I stated before. So they vary depending on the veteran's interest, and weather as well as another role that plays into what activities are being provided.
I went to the Military Museum in Stewart, and that was a fascinating place.
The Navy Museum, yes.
I thought it was just a military museum.
Trying to remember, because I know the Navy Museum was an outing as well.
Yeah. All right, we're about at the end of our time. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
I definitely want to make sure that it's clear that we, in order to run the program that we run, it is critical and vital that we have the qualified staff that we do, of which we have great staff on board. And I think that's important to have a variety of staff that come from all different backgrounds and training and educational experiences. And when we put all of that together, it creates a diverse staff that we have, of which they're very capable and qualified staff. And without them, this program would not function. So just want to make sure that it is critical that all veterans, as well as, any other agencies, they're fully aware that without staff, it's hard to run a program with the quality that we expect and veterans expect from us.
I would agree. My 2 times there, your staff was very professional. very kind, and really took the time to make me understand the devices I was working with. So very professional staff. Gabino, thank you very much for joining us. This is Insight to the VA, and we're now going to throw it to Ellie for upcoming news.
Thanks, Doug. Well, let's take a look in the W4TB inbox and see what viewers have to say. Share Episode 1, Reveal of Wisdom for Blinded Veterans. David in Florida writes, just wanted to congratulate both Doug Cram and Ben Keeley regarding the fantastic podcast interview they have created and aired, overviewing the current status and future plans for wisdom for blinded veterans. Their podcast is so very, very professional and well done. It covers every aspect as to what is so desperately needed by the blind and the vision-impaired veterans community. Their efforts and progress to date has been truly exceptional and certain to be incredibly beneficial and appreciated by so many as the foundation for our beautiful future. Thank you. Sincerely, David. Thanks, David, for your nice comments. To our listeners, please remember that if you have any kind of feedback, you can always email them to feedback@w4tb.org. To get more information on the VA's Blind Rehabilitation Centers, please visit va.gov or w4bv.org. Please take the time to check out our new show Wisdom Tech Talk on your favorite source for podcast. This is Ellie with Wisdom for the Blind Studios. Back to you, Doug.
This is Insight to the VA, where we provide blind veterans the wisdom to navigate the VA.
You've been listening to Insight to the VA. The VA is there for veterans like us, but sometimes it can be difficult for people to navigate. And that's why we're here. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like, rate, and review. And make sure to tell a friend or two. That would help as well. Produced by Wisdom for the Blind and VNS Productions, a division of VNS International. From the Wisdom for the Blind studios in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, this is Insight to the VA, signing off.